Welcome back, everyone. We are here on the Awful Takes podcast. First time music review.
Woo, finally.
Finally. It's been
a long
84
time
years.
Nabaahi. Finally, our album review.
Wow. I'm really excited today. We are going to be talking about our favorite albums of last year. Which I thought was a really kind of cool way to kind of start off. The only thing, I guess, with music is your opinion can change over time. You know, as you listen to stuff, the more time progresses and you kind of get to delve deeper into albums and things like that, it could elevate it, you know, or also it could be like, yeah, this isn't as good as I thought when I first heard it. This is going to be interesting. Obviously, we've been talking about movies for a while, so we're going to find a way to kind of go about talking about albums and recommendations. Right off the bat, I'm just going to say that we are going to be staying away from ratings. I know me and Wallied kind of agreed on this. Ratings feel almost like a kind of cop-out when it comes to albums. I feel like people don't really want to hear more about how the music and everything was made, its influence, the production behind things. And they just kind of go for scores, you know, like, I mean, figure anytime you see music released on different subgroups, Reddits, things like that, all they reference is scores, you know, like, oh, I got this score, I got that score. And it's like, well, how do you feel about it? That's what I want to know, you know?
Yeah. How did the music make you feel?
Exactly.
I don't care what Pitchfork gave it.
No, it's so true because, I mean, music is, again, very, like Wallied said, it's very personal. Each person is going to have their own interpretation into what it means and how it relates to them. So I feel like giving albums just a 1 to 10 score is almost like a disservice, you know, because everyone has their own tastes. They have their own genres that they like and things. So we're not really trying to box ourselves in at all. And this will be kind of a cool opportunity for me as well to kind of step outside my box, listen to more types of music and things, because I would consider myself someone who's very closed off when it comes to music. I like what I like and I try to stay in that realm. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
All right. This album is very, very important to me right now. It came out very early on in 2024. It actually came out in January.
Hey, it's my birthday month.
I was super excited for it. I was anticipating its release, and before the album came out, a few singles came out, and I'll mention it when we kind of break it down track by track. And hearing the album for the first time, it just really resonated with me. And I just, throughout the year, I just kept always coming back to it, you know, and I think that's the mark of something that really sticks with you. And obviously the album we're talking about is Alkaline Trio, Blood, Hair, and Eyeballs.
It's a wild title.
Yeah, it is their 10th album, studio album. And they've had a few other EPs and things like that. One thing I'll mention is I didn't get into Alkaline Trio until about 2016 to 2018. Little brief knowledge. One of my favorite bands, probably my favorite band of all time, is Blink-182. And in 2015, they broke up for the second time, and it really sucked. And this time, instead of the co-singer and bassist and drummer, instead of doing another side project like they did the first time, they decided to continue on Blink-182. And they brought in Matt Skiba from Alkaline Trio to fill in the void of the former guitarist and singer. It was very interesting. Like, I remember at the time feeling like, this is weird. We're going to get more Blink-182, but it's without one of the founding members of the band. You know, I didn't know how that was going to work. And then they released their first single in 2016. And man, it really just caught me off guard. It was a song called Bored to Death, and hearing Matt on there and hearing the direction they were going to go with Blink-182, it really worked for me. And I was not expecting that. And before you know it, I started listening more and more to Matt's solo work, and then eventually getting into Alkaline Trio. And obviously seeing Alkaline Trio, I was like, these guys have been around for 20 years. How have I not really heard about them until now, you know? Yeah. And just getting into their music was just something that I loved, and just getting so anticipated for their new releases and albums. It was unlike anything I had ever experienced. It felt like a more darker take on pop punk and alternative genre. You know, it really just, the lyrics and things they would talk about, it was just like something that sounded more mature than someone like Blink-182. Obviously, I love Blink-182, and they're meant to like represent that eternal youth kind of side. But this was just a nice kind of exposure and experience to listen to this band for the first time. So now being, you know, kind of getting into them over the last couple of years was great. And obviously, I was always anticipating when they would make new music. And hearing this album for the first time, man, it just filled everything that I was expecting and honestly surpassed it. I guess, Wallied, did you know anything about Alkaline Trio beforehand, before I recommended this album?
I didn't. So this was a first time for me. I wasn't really too familiar with the band. I know you had mentioned them a few times when we've had like brief conversations about music and things like that. But yeah, I wasn't too familiar with Alkaline Trio. So this was actually my first album I listened to of theirs, which I really enjoyed. I was actually surprisingly really liked it a lot. I really just enjoyed a lot of the instrumentals throughout. I dug some of the singing. I'm not sure who like the singer is, but he had a really good voice. I really liked him a lot. And I was actually kind of surprised with some of the lyrics too, also, and just some of the things it goes into that I was not expecting it to go into, you know? Yeah.
Well, it's not too like polarizing, doesn't really like kind of catch you off guard. I would say this, for me, why I've been kind of recommending this to people is it feels the most straightforward, as like, this is what Alkaline Trio represents. I feel like this whole album, just these 10 songs, like you will know, okay, the past albums, this is what this sounded like. This is taking inspiration from this, while also kind of pushing it forward, you know? Because when you think about it, it's like 10 albums. That's lot.
Crazy.
That's a lot of music to release under one band. You know, some bands release one album and then they're done.
Yeah. It's like a one-off project.
So it's like, how do you come back to the table, and how do you kind of make it fresh still? How do you still kind of find that voice inside of you that's been pushing you this whole time? And I feel like they really succeeded with this, because for someone like me, again, just starting to get into this band over the past couple of years and really just kind of discovering what they're all about, and then hearing something, you know, that came out in 2024 and the stuff they talk about, it's like, okay, this is taking everything that I loved in this band and again, just bringing it forward and kind of doing it in a fresh way. One thing I'll mention there is written by the 3 members of the band. Matt Skiba, he is guitarist, lead vocalist. Okay. You have Daniel Adriano. He is the bassist and co-vocalist. And then you have Derek Grant. He's on drums. As of last year, right before this album came out, they announced that Derek is no longer going to be in the band as the drummer, and they are going to bring in a new drummer, Adam Willard, but he had no writing or involvement in this project. So this was kind of like the last send-off of Derek, and Derek had been in the band for so many years, he pretty much was kind of considered like a founding member.
Okay.
So it is going to be kind of interesting moving forward how they're going to handle that. But all right, let's get into track 1. Right. It is a song called Hot for Preacher.
Great title.
Absolutely amazing title. I remember hearing about it beforehand, and I just laughed. I was like, what the heck? And I didn't know. I was like, are they going to kind of parody like Hot for Teacher or something? But I think it was just like a kind of filler title they had, and they just kind of like left it on there.
Okay.
Because the song doesn't really bear any resemblance to Hot for Teacher. But yeah, Hot for Preacher. Right away.
Banging intro.
Just banging intro. Just comes in directly at your face. You hear guitar riffs that just sound like, oh man, it just, I'll say in the last album that they did kind of do more power chords and stuff. And I know Matt's approach in playing guitar on this album, he wanted to stay away from that. He wanted to do more like riffing, lead riffs, stuff like that. And
sick.
You hear it right away in this intro, man. It just comes at you, and it just feels like this is like some cool kind of dark, kind of like pop punk stuff, alternative, and I don't know, it just really kind of just, man, it just connected to what I was feeling in that moment. I was like, this is great. I don't know what it was, but I just loved it. In that little intro part before the lyrics, Wallied, what were you thinking? Were you like, what the heck?
Yeah, I was just surprised how much it sucked me in like super quickly to just like kind of give me an idea of like what I was going to be in for with the album and everything. And I think once the vocals came in, I was like, I'm kind of in for the ride pretty much, you know? I was just definitely like, man, this is going really hard. I guess it's kind of like a banger track.
Yeah.
It's like a really great way to kind of just start off the album.
Right away, lyrics just absolutely amazing. Like, I don't know what it is with Matt. His ability to write lyrics and stuff just continues to impress me. He is so melodic, but he uses a lot of like metaphors for things to like explain things. And I feel like in writing metaphors, you could lose some people, you know, but for some reason this album just does it in such a great way. Obviously the pre-chorus, boys will be poison, girls will be war, your path has been chosen, your voice has been torn, out at the roots, what else is new? It's like, what the heck? Like,
it's a bit abstract.
It's so
sure.
abstract, and it's just like, whoa, like this is crazy. Like, I don't know. Like, I just love Matt's ability to think of out of the box lyrics. You know, he just has such a talent for that. One of my favorite lyrics in this song is obviously the chorus. It talks about kind of comparing things to like this hot autumn night in Chinatown. And it's, we are so far, so lost it's true. We can't attempt to start anew. We lost our way so long ago, chopping things down before they grow. Wow, that is just poetry.
Right there. You already.
Wally, what were you thinking with some of these lyrics? Like, how was it kind of hitting you? Or was it just something that you maybe had to like come back to like kind of analyze them a little bit?
At first, for me, it was a little bit hard to follow, but I kind of like let it sit and just kind of simmer for a bit, especially when the chorus came in. And so it was kind of, I'd have to give it a couple more listens, but for sure, I really just dug like that chorus. I thought it was like super catchy. Yeah. And I was kind of curious to see what kind of story he was kind of telling with these lyrics and everything.
And then the second part of the chorus, been gone so long, we went too far, like crashing jets and shooting stars. We let the best of us burn down. Hot autumn nights in Chinatown. I mean, again, it's just such a like out of the box idea. Obviously, you hear the title "Hot for Preacher," and so it's just like I remember listening to this. I was like, "Damn, this is just out of my mind. I wasn't thinking about this." So now I kind of would have to go back and listen and kind of break down the lyrics of like, okay, like what is he saying? You know, it's like coming into this, obviously, I know he has, you know, things with relationships that, you know, haven't worked for him in the past. And maybe it's almost like he's kind of saying how much of that can be kind of, I'm interpreting it as like self-sabotage almost, you know, especially with the line, like chopping things down before they grow, you know, in a relationship or things like that. Like how much are we kind of not letting things root? How much are we not letting things kind of take full form before we kind of can give it the amount of time it needs, you know? How many times do we self-sabotage in life and things like that with not even just relationships, but like your own personal life and things like that? Like things take time. You got to give it time before you can judge things right away, you know? At least that was my takeaway with some of these lyrics. But man, this was just such a great intro track for me. And it's just very to the point, you know. I feel like obviously the track comes in at around almost 4 minutes, but it doesn't waste any time, you know. It really hits super hard and just kind of says, we're here, you know, this is the album. Like, we're not going to take time or anything like that. Like, here it is. Like, this is where the band is at this moment in time. But overall, I just really enjoyed the track. Did you have anything kind of critiques wise, or maybe stuff that wasn't working for you?
No, I thought it was a pretty great track. I thought, honestly, the instrumental worked really well. It surprisingly goes by really quickly, too. I love the pace of the track. Doesn't overstay its welcome by any means. So, yeah, I would say if this is a pretty amazing track.
Yeah.
But definitely one I want to look more into, especially with the lyrics.
All right. Next track, Meet Me. This one took a little bit more for me to get into, if I'm being honest.
Okay.
It's not that I don't think it's good or anything. It's just, I feel like with the way it flows and everything, it took a little longer to kind of resonate.
Gotcha.
However, I still really enjoy it. I just don't find myself really coming back to this one all too much. But man, the writing in this, again, still really good. The way it kind of bounces into this kind of like groove, it's just kind of like this back and forth kind of like, bumping, and it sounds really cool, but it sounds really kind of different from something that I would think Alkaline Trio would do. But I still really enjoyed it. Wally, what were you thinking with Meet Me?
I thought the track was okay personally, especially just after like the really banging intro. It was just kind of like, it felt like kind of like a whiplash almost between the two. I didn't really dig the chorus on this one all too much. I didn't like the eyes. I thought were kind of a little obnoxious.
Yeah. And it came off as like kind of maybe trying to create something more, kind of mainstream, something more catchy, but I feel like we kind of lost it a little bit, especially with that intro. Like you said, it was so good and to the point and a bit more simple in the chorus. I feel like this one kind of tried to do something different, but did it really succeed? Not really. Cause every time I hear this track, I don't really find myself kind of singing along with it, or like, the chorus is stuck in my head. It's just kind of like, it's there,
It's a little forgettable for me.
Yeah, honestly. But I mean, I've seen people, this is one of their favorite tracks off the album.
Oh, cool.
Which is totally awesome. There's some great lyrics in here though, especially that bridge. I feel like the bridge I enjoyed mostly out of everything in the song. And obviously I like the line, as the sky is falling, I'll fall into your arms. As the sky is falling, I fall. Like, I don't know. That's just to me like simple, to the point, and puts an image in your head. I always like lyrics that kind of do that. Like it kind of ties to like a metaphor that you're like thinking of, and you can almost like picture it.
Yeah, it's the best kind of storytelling with lyrics for sure.
Definitely. But yeah, Mimi, it's okay. Decent track, not bad. And then we get into Versions of You. I don't mind this one. Oh. For me, the bridge is my favorite part, though.
Okay. I really loved the vocals on the third track.
Yeah.
This was probably my favorite vocal performance. I would say one of my favorites out of the album. Yeah.
Okay.
I really dug the guy's voice. The range was incredible.
Yeah.
And I really just thought the instrumental went super crazy, and I love just the chorus. The chorus I felt like was super, super catchy for this one for me.
That's great. This is the one where Dan comes in singing, and obviously his voice serves as like a nice juxtaposition to Matt. Obviously he's a bit more lower register, but I still feel like with him, the emotions really still kind of hit, Yeah. I love his voice. I don't know what it is, but I really did enjoy this track. Again, for me, the chorus, when it comes in, it's really good, and it really attaches to kind of like your mind, and you kind of find yourself listening to it. And I love the riff at the beginning, the guitar riff when it comes in. It's just something that you wouldn't really expect. And I always kind of love when you hear riffs in the beginning of songs, and you're kind of like trying to like guess, how is the vocals going to turn out with this? It's almost like that, like discovery along with the track, Yeah. But I'm really glad you enjoyed it. Wow. That's really cool.
Yeah. This was definitely one of my favorite tracks for sure on the album.
The bridge felt almost like something Matt kind of brought from his time at Blink. It really doesn't sound like a bridge he would write, yet it really stuck out to me. And it's definitely probably one of my favorite bridges on the album.
Nice.
And one line I want to mention that I just, man, the swing of it. And again, I love those bridges where it's just like, it's totally different from the chorus, from the intro, you know, it's like almost like writing like a second song. For instance, the lyrics, it's like, you traded in your leather for a denim and a Polaroid, put it up for sale in the mail for your brand new boy. I couldn't just tell you how long it's been. I can only say how fully disappointed I am.
Wow, yeah.
Crazy lyrics. And just the way Matt sings it. And then Dan comes back in with his vocals. Oh, man, it just works so well. But this is a good track. Definitely for me, this was a solid track. And I feel like if you're kind of listening to this album for the first time, Hot for Preacher, I could definitely see grabbing people. However, with Meet Me kind of following up, some people might be like, this doesn't really work. One thing I want to preference with this album for me is the second half is just great. And the first half kind of takes a little bit to kind of get going.
Yeah.
But yeah, Versions of You is a really cool song. Oh, man. All right. Bad Time. This is one of my favorites.
Another fantastic one for me.
And this is one that is obviously one of my most replayed songs off the album. This was one of the singles beforehand. And I remember this one not grabbing me right away. However, the more I kept it on, the more I kind of found myself kind of singing this chorus. It was stuck in my head. And man, I just kept coming back to this song throughout the year. I don't know what it was. It just gets you hyped up. That intro riff and the way the drums come in just starts kicking. Oh man, I love this track. What were you thinking?
Yeah, I knew right away when the song started, I was like, okay, this is definitely going to be a standout for sure.
Yeah.
I love the guitar riffs on the track. The drums are super crisp. I love just, again, the vocals on this track I think are incredible. Yeah. And then the lyrics too are like surprisingly kind of dark, and it kind of juxtaposes with like what you're actually listening
to.
And I think it's like a perfect juxtaposition that surprisingly really works for the track, you know?
No, I agree 100%. Definitely, the lyrics do take a little bit. You kind of have to listen to it a little bit more. For instance, one of the lines, he's referencing like he's being stalked by killer robots, and he's pretty sure they're bulletproof, you know?
It's like something out of a sci-fi film.
Yeah, it's like, what the heck? But man, the intro kind of groove, the way he's singing, just the thought you called me up that one time, thought that I heard gunfire, I stepped outside, left a message saying hi. Man, the way he goes about singing these different lyrics, it's so catchy. I don't know what it is. It's like even the beginning verse, the way he does it is just really catchy. I'm like, okay, this is cool.
It's like that was kind of like my hype song. It like gets you amped up.
Yeah,
for sure.
Exactly.
For me at least, yeah.
And then the chorus it's very simple and kind of to the point. He just kind of does this part where it's obviously in earlier in the song, it's like left a message saying hi. I answered from a drive-by, but I told you it's a bad time, but I can talk. And the way that is, and it kind of breaks into this pre-chorus, and it's just like, no, I really want to talk to you. I'm being stalked. And then the way the chorus comes in, it's just like, man, I wasn't expecting this, you know, like the way this whole song is kind of structured. Again, the verses are really catchy. Pre-chorus kind of comes in out of nowhere, and he just kind of evolves the song almost. And then by the time the chorus comes in, and you're the only one that I can tell that I can talk to. I should be under your spell right now. Your spell right now. The way you moves me. With no place left to go, and your sweet voice leaves me speechless, like you will never know. Yeah. Great. Just absolutely great.
As in like an interpretation of like, this is like a new love. I see him that he's found, and he kind of wants to he doesn't want to mess this up like he has the past relationships. Yeah. That's kind of how I at least took it from the lyrics.
No, that's a great interpretation. And man, it's so simple. Just the line, I really want to talk to you. Like that says a lot. And I feel like sometimes in songs, we kind of get too caught up in the emotions and we kind of over explain things. I feel like simplicity, man, that can just bring in people. And just the simple line can be interpreted in so many ways. I really want to talk. I really want to talk to you. It's just like, wow, that's great.
Yeah.
No need to go overcomplicated. Obviously, in the verses, he's talking about killer robots or how he just ate shrooms or whatever.
Yeah,
things
it's
like
almost
that.
like him. I feel like being busy, or he's kind of using excuses to not talk to this person.
Exactly.
Almost, you know.
But man, this was a great
Fantastic.
track for me.
Perfect.
And it's one I still come back to. All right.
Great one.
Then we move on to Scars, another kind of Dan-led track. Wallied, what were you thinking with this one?
I thought this one was all right. It wasn't my personal favorite. I did dig some of the lyrics about how he kind of portrays scars, but I felt like this one just wasn't hard hitting for me as much. I don't know if it was kind of being like more of a ballad type of thing, but
Yeah.
I thought this one was okay.
This one was okay for me too. I feel like they could have spent a little more time with this one and kind of found maybe a different way to go about it. I think lyrically it's good. However, I just feel like with the groove and stuff, it didn't connect with me too much. And this is coming from someone like me where on the past album, Is This Thing Cursed, Dan had a lot of standout moments in tracks.
Yeah.
And I remember coming into this one, honestly, more excited to hear Dan than I was to hear Matt. However, with some of his songs on here, I was feeling a little like, man, I just wanted more. I just wanted a little bit, spend a little more time with this, kind of progress it, maybe just a little bit more. It's not a bad track, but it is one that I just don't really find myself going back to all that much. I just feel like maybe they could have went back to the drawing board on this one.
Yeah, something that I think could have been a lot better, or maybe made the track a bit more hard hitting, is kind of start off more like a ballad, and then build that up, and then when the second half, just have it come to like an explosion, or something like that.
That would have definitely helped it to stand out. I feel like this one does get a little kind of lost. Doesn't really have much of a standout moment compared to earlier in the album with Versions of You. I feel like the bridge stands out. It doesn't sound like anything else on the album. You know, the chorus with this song, it's just kind of like it's there, you know.
Yeah, it feels kind of like filler.
Yeah, but no diss if you like this track by any means. All right. We move on to Break. This one I feel like is the most Alkaline Trio. Like this one really speaks a lot to like what the band is. Really dark. Again, really dark with some of these lyrics.
Really.
But this song kind of grooves, you know?
Yeah.
Wally, what were you thinking with this one?
This was actually my second favorite track on the album. I really loved this one a lot.
That's great.
The instrumental was just incredible. I loved the vocals. I actually really dug the lyrics and the story a bit. It took me a bit to kind of realize what the song was kind of going for, especially with like a werewolf in a dungeon or the Bride of Frankenstein.
Great.
Yeah. But yeah, I loved this. I love this track. It goes by so fast. The pace of the track is really incredible. Another one that just kind of amps you up, you know?
Yeah, it really does. Again, some of these lyrics, when we break down, when we fall apart, you'll be there, smiling ear to ear and splashing around in our blood, screaming, God damn it, I cannot get enough. Really dark, but man, is it great.
It's the craziest Halloween party I've ever heard.
And I love like the bell, you know, sound. It sounds like this kind of like church bell ringing, you know, it's just really awesome. And I love the instruments of this track, the drum beats, the guitars. Really, this one, I'd say for me, it was kind of a pre-release single. This was one that definitely just caught me by surprise. And I really like this. And I would definitely say from Break onwards is where the album really just hits its stride. I feel like every song past this for me, I just can just listen to all day long, man. This is for me where I was like, whoa, this is great. So yeah, Break, just really awesome track, really dark. And if you're new to Alkaline Trio, it might be a little polarizing, but it grooves and it really works for me.
Yeah.
So definitely give it a listen. All right. This is a big one for me. This is my favorite song off the album, Shake With Me.
Sick. Nice.
I absolutely love this track. I cannot say that enough. This for me, I remember just hearing it for the first time. I was just laying down. I had my headphones on. It was the morning the album came out, and right away when this one starts with the guitar, I was just like, what the heck? And then this bass comes in. It's like, boo-doo. I was like, okay. And then you hear the drum. And then Matt comes in with this different approach to singing, like just this, compared to everything else on the album, this one just kind of sounds more personal. And I don't know what it is. I just love it when artists have those moments, Great lyrics in this song. Again, a lot of metaphors, kind of puts these images in your head, what do you see staring at the ceiling? What would you dream if you could get to sleep at all? Said you can't breathe, a choking fear of feeling, begs you to scream each and every nightfall. Ooh, that is so good. I really just can't get over this song. And then he goes into like this great pre-chorus. If you're going to go, then go, but go with caution. If you're going to leave, then leave them holding the bag. And then this chorus comes in and it really just works. I absolutely love the lyrics. And the rain will come and wash out every place we go. So drink with me now. I'm only terrified when you're letting go, so shake with me now. That is such a good lyric. I'm so sorry, but man, I remember just seeing the title Shake With Me. I was like, okay, is this going to be like some kind of dance song or something?
Yeah.
And then hearing him say that, I'm only terrified when you're letting go, so shake with me now. That is my favorite lyric off this whole album. Every time I hear it, I'm like, yes, let's go. Like this song, I don't know what it is. Wallied, what were you thinking with this song?
This one was another favorite I really loved. This was incredible. The instrumental is fantastic. I really loved the storytelling on this one.
So good.
Especially with the lyrics. And the guitar riffs, I don't know why. The guitar riffs just stand out to me more on this track compared to some of the other songs.
Definitely.
I really, really dug this one.
And this song definitely just feels like there's evolution to it. I love that in music and tracks and stuff when they evolve, but it's not too much of a change, it really just kind of feels like this steady progression. And I love his second verse. He's like, it's time to tell you how I really feel. Cameron says it's time for a change. You went to the mountains to hunt ghosts. I watch in horror as we spoke for what was the last time in our lives as far as he knows. It's great. I really can't get over that second verse. Like just the way he evolves it lyrically and he rhymes and stuff. It's just like something I wasn't thinking of yet. When you hear it, it's like this moment of like, duh, like, wow, that's great. Like, it's so simple and again, it feels personal.
It feels like him taking a risk with this almost relationship that you hear throughout the album. I kind of see it as like a bit of like a concept album of like him having like a second chance at like a relationship and this being like a serious relationship and like a serious love that he hasn't experienced in quite a long time. Yeah. It's like the experience of like a young love, like when you're like 16 or 17.
Yeah. And then the second time through this chorus, Dan comes in after the shake with me now line. And he just kind of comes in and has his own kind of approach to this song. When the light has given up on me, but I'm still not hard to find. These fingernails like breadcrumb trails I always leave behind. Wow. Wow, I really just can't get over it. Like the lyrics and again, the rhyme schemes and everything, it's just great. It really is just great. And then the bridge kind of comes in. It's almost like a breakdown of the track too. Like it kind of devolves into this totally different thing. And Matt has like these kind of haunting vocals of like just talking about like lie awake in the moonlight, drive as fast as you can, die out there in the sunshine, washed up in the sand. And just his approach in that bridge. And again, the way it kind of breaks down everything does feel really haunting, but it works for me. And I really enjoy it. But man, this track overall is just something that it just stuck with me from the moment I heard it. I play this song for so many people. I send it to them. I'm like, please listen to this track. Like, this is just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
I just can't get enough of it.
Really good one. Good
Yep.
standout track for me.
All right. Then we get into the first single of the album and the title track, Blood, Hair, and Eyeballs. Groovy. This one's a really bouncy track. It's really awesome. And this one does feel, again, if you've heard Alkaline Trio, this is in their wheelhouse, you know.
Cool. Okay.
And I really love this song. This song for me is just definitely just for me like a banger. And it really is. I listen to it all the time. And yeah, you could play this at a Halloween party and get everyone hyped up.
Oh, sick.
But yeah, Wally, what were you thinking with this track?
This one was good. It wasn't one of my favorites personally, but I did kind of dig the instrumental. I thought some of the lyrics were pretty solid, but this one didn't really grab me as much as the last track.
This one definitely, when you hear like this was the first single, it makes sense. So I'm like, okay, this does feel like kind of the single song, you know, like this feels like something you would want to get people into the album, you know?
Yeah.
But I really did enjoy this track, and it had a lot of great lyrics in it that I love. And again, guitar riffs, drums, everything ebbs and flows in such a nice way. And yeah, this one definitely grew on me because I remember the first time hearing it. It wasn't what I was expecting. And I was just like, yeah, it's good. And I think I just kind of found myself coming back to it more and more. So I would definitely say this one grew on me quite a bit.
Okay, cool.
But really enjoyed it.
Nice.
Then we get into a interlude of the album that goes into the next song. Wallied, I guess, overall, this interlude, how did it work for you? Or did it meld well, or was it kind of out of place?
It personally didn't work for me just because it was just kind of short. But I think what they could have done better was just have the interlude just be part of the Broken Down in a Time Machine track.
Yeah.
I feel like it would have made like for a better like intro rather than just have it as like its own thing.
I agree. It did kind of leave me wanting more. And I was just like, yeah, like it's cool and it works. But honestly, you don't really miss anything if you just go straight into Broken Down in a Time Machine. Like that's always my things with interludes is you really have to justify why it's
the
there.
reason. It's hit or miss for me sometimes. Sometimes I think interludes can work and I feel like they can make the album even better, but some I just feel like they needed to add like another track or you know, just so they can have like a 11 track album or whatever.
I definitely see this would have worked a little better if it was kind of almost like glue between the two songs. If the ending of Blood, Hair, and Eyeballs kind of melded better with this interlude. I definitely would find myself listening to it more, but
definitely
it's all right. All right. Broken Down in a Time Machine. This is for me is Dan's strong point on the album. I know some people could maybe find the lyrics maybe a little cheesy and it's like, okay, what is he singing about being broken down in a time machine? And I think he explains it very, very well. It's like in moments in life, you're kind of taken back to an earlier time in your life where things weren't that great, you know? And it's almost like that kind of self-sabotage thing too, where it's like, you know, you can't fully move on from the past, but he kind of explains it in a way of like, you're in a time machine, you know, like how many moments in your life where you're reminded of things and you're brought back to the past to relive these moments going on in your head and stuff. Okay. And I think for me, that really, really works. And man, I just really like this song, and it definitely grew on me because at first I was like, yeah, this is good, but man, again, this second half of the album, this really works for me compared to some of Dan's other tracks on the album. Wally, what were you thinking with this one?
This one, I really loved. I really connected with this song a lot. It reminded me of, at least my interpretation of the track was that like it's him going through like a nostalgia trip almost, you know, using the time machine as a way to go have these trips down memory lane and how some of these memories and traumas have shaped him to be like the person that he is. And with this relationship that he's having with this other person, I really loved the storytelling on it. And I loved the use of like the time machine as like a metaphor, as like him going back to these moments, you know, it's a very fascinating feeling when you're going through nostalgia and those trips down memory lanes. And I really loved how like the song portrayed it, you know. It definitely even brought me back to kind of like the middle school days of when I used to kind of listen to this type of music and things like that.
No, really. And some great lyrics in this one. Line I just want to shout out is, I got used to numbing so comfortably, locked in here with what's haunting me. Now I don't dare turn my back. That's when I get attacked. That's great. That is really great. Mm-hmm. Especially you got used to numbing so comfortably. It's like how many times do we do that? We try to just, mask everything. We try to mask the problems and the things in our lives, and we get used to just doing that, and it becomes comfortable. But then you start to realize, no, I'm blocking out this real problem in my life. I'm not acknowledging it. I'm just kind of giving it a space, Mm-hmm. But I really enjoyed this track, and I think this is one of Dan's strong points in the band as a whole, and all of their albums. This is definitely some of Dan's best work, at least for me.
Nice.
Really, really great.
Yeah, instrumental was fantastic. I might even say might be the catchiest chorus, I think, on the album for me, too.
Wow. No, I
really loved that chorus a lot.
So good. All right. And then we get into the final track. For me, this is my second favorite track off the album.
Okay.
Starts out with this guitar riff, and it just goes. And I would love to hear this song live. Man, this is for me, this is like the evolution of Alkaline Trio. This is if I could pick one song on here that I would want their next album to sound like, this would be the song. I just absolutely love this track, and it's something that is different in its approach. That guitar riff just kind of comes in, and then Matt just comes in singing over it, and it's almost like this kind of like echoing kind of like chant, and the way his voice just flows between these lyrics and these lines. Oh man, I just love it. Wallied, what were you thinking with this track?
It ends off surprisingly really, really strong, and I feel like it ties everything together really well, especially with the lyrics. I really loved the lyrics. It might be my favorite out of all of the songs on the album, but I love that it's like a realization that like all good things eventually have to come to an end. Yeah. And the instrumental, I think, is really great. Mm-hmm. It adds, it feels like a grand closing. It feels like a goodbye almost.
No, I agree.
I oddly didn't expect with the album for sure.
And it really just kind of acknowledges like, okay, we're at the point in our lives where we need to come to the realization that good times, as great as they are, they're brief, they come and they leave, like we need to acknowledge that, but then also kind of tying it into this kind of acknowledgement of how teens are today is something that I was not expecting. There's some very kind of dark lyrics in here that kind of tie into that. And it's just like, he says, he's like, I'm waiting to break like a teenage heart. And he's like, all I want for Christmas is an AR-15, my stocking stuffed with fentanyl. Drop like a fly at the ripe age of 16, wishing I had a friend to call. It's like, holy shit. Like that's some dark stuff to be talking about. But then it's like, that's what, teens now, these are the things they're going through, and you can feel young at heart and obviously at the time right now, but it's like there is a very dark realization of where, life is right now, which is insane to kind of tie that to this feeling of good times won't last long,
Yeah, it's very bleak, surprisingly, but
definitely.
It's very effective. Works really well.
And I love the trade-off. Matt is singing the first verse, chorus, and everything, and then Dan comes in, and he has that same approach. You hear it in his vocals, yet it sounds more kind of restrained, and I just love that. I love hearing Dan's part and kind of his take on things, And then obviously for me, the best part is in the end when they're kind of echoing the same points, and And I just love the evolution of the lines. Like, I got the aches and the pains and the poison in the veins. Come on. I got the ills and the chills, and my good times won't last long. I got the shakes and the quakes and the world in my wake. So I think, I sweat, I pretend to sleep, and I'm waiting to break like a teenage heart in America. Wow, that is some great writing. And in that last part, when they're singing that, Matt goes for like this even higher register while Dan's singing and the vocals are layered. And man, that ending just really amps me up. And it just sucks that that's the end. But man, this was such a great closing track. And I think hearing this track definitely cemented my love for this album. Like, hearing it, I was just like, okay, this is really good. And I just remember after this song ended, right away I just started the album again. And I was like, I got to listen to this thing again.
Yeah.
And again, this track, Shake With Me, is just, oh man, I just kept coming back to these two. It was just insane. So I guess overall, like, if you're not into Alkaline Trio, I could see this as a very good, to the point album that could get you into them. Some of their other albums can be a little bit long. They kind of go to those 16, 15 track kind of albums, you know?
Okay.
And some, like, obviously I love their last album, Is This Thing Cursed? But I do feel like there are some songs that don't really work as a whole. This, to me, I love it when artists have, you know what, no, we're just going to do 10 songs, 10 songs, and this,
short and sweet.
This is it.
Yeah.
You take it, and that's it, you know? So if you're definitely getting into this album, I'll just say straight off the bat, the songs for me that are part of my everyday playlist is Bad Time, Shake With Me, Broken Down in a Time Machine, and Teenage Heart. Nice. If you don't have the span for a whole album, please just check out those songs. Those are the songs that, honestly, I think 3 out of the 5 of them were in my top 5 Spotify songs of last year. And I'm not trying to lie or anything. I'm being dead serious. And this album for me is just really great. And I love it more and more. I listen to it. And yeah, I've been trying to recommend this album to as many people as I can, because I feel like this band definitely deserves a lot more than they're given. And I thank God that Matt joined Blink, because if he didn't, who knows if I would have ever heard about this album. So please check it out if you haven't heard it. Wallied, I guess, closing thoughts with this album.
Yeah, this was a very big surprise for me as somebody who's not really familiar with Alkaline Trio. This was a big surprise. I really liked this album a lot. There were some surprisingly really hard-hitting tracks. I really enjoyed just kind of the sound of the album for sure. And I was surprised with how far it got into some of the lyrics and just some of the themes and portrayals of nostalgia that you kind of hear throughout. I will kind of say, though, for me, a little bit, some of the songs can feel a little bit similar at times, you know, where it can kind of sound the same. But I will say it is very consistent, which I like. But yeah, I would just say some of my favorite tracks for the record for sure was obviously Hot for Preacher, Versions of You. Bad Time was incredible. Broken Down in a Time Machine, Teenage Heart, and then Shake With Me was a really, really great track. And yeah, I would just say overall really liked the album a lot. One I might revisit again, honestly. Nice. And I might give some of their other works a shot just to kind of see just kind of the progression and just some of the albums they have worked on.
Definitely. This is just a total win for me. Having 2 bands that I love now, and seeing that crossover of Matt's time in Blink-182 for me is just something that I cherish a lot. I know some people kind of see that whole time period as not real Blink-182, but man, they had some great tracks. Like one day I want to eventually talk about it, but they had some great tracks on those albums, and I think Matt was definitely the strong points. And it just further made me just a fan of his music, and his writing ability is just amazing. And I think any Blink-182 fan would be absolutely foolish not to acknowledge that. That he has just some standout tracks on those albums. Like, if you haven't heard No Heart to Speak Of, and people rate that album so low, but that song is just amazing. And honestly, for me, it's in that top Blink era. Like, I don't know. I feel like he was able to come in and really expose people to a different way of writing songs and things. And I just couldn't be more of a fan now of Alkaline Trio more than ever. And I just want to hear more, and I want to go see them live, and I want to just tell people to check this band out. And I'm so excited for what they have in the future. And it sucks. I was going to go see them last year on tour, but I just unfortunately wasn't able to, and I still regret it to this day.
I see.
Because hearing, again, some of these songs live would be absolutely amazing. Yeah, if you haven't checked out any Alkaline Trio, please reference probably those songs me and Wallied talked about. If you don't have the attention span for a full album, which, you know, it happens to everyone. Like, you know, albums can be long and stuff. Like, please just listen to one or two of those tracks. And if you like it, give it a listen, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
But all right, that's going to be it for Blood, Hair, and Eyeballs. Our first album review discussion.
Nice.
I thought it was great. It was a lot of fun.
Pick.
Yeah. All right, guys, we will see you on the next one.
All right. Good day and good night, mates.